My heart showeth me the wickedness of the ungodly, that there is no fear of God before his eyes. For he flattereth himself in his own sight, until his abominable sin be found out. The words of his mouth are unrighteous, and full of deceit. He hath left off to behave himself wisely, and to do good. He imagineth mischief upon his bed, and hath set himself in no good way. Neither doth he abhor any thing that is evil. Thy mercy, O Lord, reacheth unto the heavens, and thy faithfulness unto the clouds. Thy righteousness standeth like the strong mountains, thy judgments are like the great deep. Thou, Lord, shall save both man and beast. How excellent is thy mercy, O God! And the children of men shall put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. They shall be satisfied with plenteousness of thy house, and thou shalt give them drink of thy pleasures as out of the river. For with thee is the well of life, and in thy light shall we see light. O continue forth thy loving kindness unto them that know thee, and thy righteousness unto them that are true of heart. O let not the foot of pride come against me, and let not the hand of the ungodly cast me down. There are they fallen, all that work wickedness. They are cast down, and shall not be able to stand. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. How are we doing, iPhone? And Sister Malika, peace be with you. I hope you guys are all well. So I just thought, as you can see, I'm getting later in the day because I think we get less trolls doing it this way. People who are just messing up the chat. Where to begin? Yesterday, someone lampooned me on Twitter and tried to dox me because they were badly processing their own disappointment in that I didn't live up to their expectations. And yeah, it got to me, and I responded on the Twitter account to them, and they've since deleted a lot of their tweets, hopefully including the one that attempted to dox me. But it did pose a question to me, one that I feel I should try and answer now. His disappointment, I'm guessing it's a him, it could be a woman, but it certainly sounds in tone to be a bloke, was about his disappointment was that, you know, he seems to agree with the idea of a muscular Christianity, but then accuses me of being all mouth and no action. You know, why haven't I organized anything? Why haven't I organized a group? Why haven't I organized some kind of meeting? So let me talk about that. Please note the absence of slurp. Thank you. So basically, guys, a couple of things. Firstly, I'm not in a position to organize anything for multiple reasons. One, because we're in a lockdown. Two, because, you know, to organize big scale events, you need to be able to invest in the time. And three, I don't consider myself a leader. Now, the leaders are the pastors and the priests and the bishops. They're the leaders of the church. I'm just a member of the laity who is an activist. And I am arguing what I think the stance that the church needs to take to face the challenges that the church faces in the future that are both here now and what I think are coming down the road. And those challenges are going to be hard. Like, I don't think the security, I think that Christians in the West have been lulled into apathy because of a general relative security that they have faced. But certainly that security is not replicated across the world, and lots of our brothers and sisters are suffering for that. And also, also what you've got is the fact that you have challenges coming at the church in the West, such as the liberal progressive secularism and the rise of Islam that's trying to fill the void created by liberal progressive secularism. You know, and you also have this lack of solidarity with our brothers and sisters around the world, and the fact that they are truly being persecuted, and that the church in our lifetime is likely to go from being a global faith to being a regional faith for the first time since about the 1600s. You know, and that's not a good thing for us to celebrate. You know, there's nothing there for us to celebrate. There's nothing there for us to laud. Something's gone wrong in the church. And for me, the thing that has gone wrong in the church can be described in a number of different ways. One is the fact that the church is at every level sectarian and fractionalized and divided. Two, we have given up on the idea of Christian civilization. We've given up on the idea of a political agenda for the church, which means that very often what ends up happening is that our politics is influenced by narratives that are not actually rooted in apostolic and prophetic teaching. They're influenced instead by the philosophies of Edmund Burke or John Locke or Karl Marx or Friedrich Nietzsche, and they influence our politics far more than reading the apostolic and fathers and the prophets. So we need to reconnect our faith to politics. We need to reconnect our faith to a vision of what a Christian civilization would look like. We need to find a unity amongst ourselves so that we stop wasting resources and wasting time and wasting energy, because given the fact that we are duplicating efforts and we are expending time and energy fighting one another, when all of our enemies, you know, are quite willing to fight us regardless of our sect and denomination, means that we need to rediscover our unity, and we need to have solidarity with the persecuted church, because their plight demands our response, not just our thoughts, not just our words, but our actions. So that all being said, why haven't I tried to organize anything? Because I'm not a leader. I'm someone who is seeking to influence. If someone is a leader, they have a position of legitimate authority. They have authority. I have none, and I'm not trying to pretend that I do. I'm just a member of the laity who is arguing that the leadership and the body of Christ should take on a certain attitude, a certain mindset, a certain way of doing discipleship that I think will be for the good of the church. Because I think that we have to become much more activist. And my activism is expressed in my YouTube, in my evangelism, the fact that I am going out and being an evangelist. And as I get more time, that'll probably become much more activist in the sense of getting involved in political activity. At the very most, you know, what I would love to see is that as more and more Christians agree with the position that I'm arguing for, that they start to live out that discipleship in their fellowships. They start to encourage other fellowships to do it, and maybe network and be a society within the body of Christ. But I'm certainly not interested in setting up like an internet church, as some people have asked me to do. I'm not interested in setting up another church, as some people have asked me to do. I'm not interested in setting up a political party, as some people have asked me to do. I would be happy if people that agree with me, who live in the same geographical area, met together and worked together and being activists together, and that all of you that agree with what I'm trying to say become activists yourselves. And what I say activists rather than evangelists, because not all of you are going to be called to become evangelists. You're going to be activists in different ways, that's according to your circumstances and your abilities. But what I would say is that there's no cavalry coming over the hill for the body of Christ. No one cares about the plight of the church. No one cares about the struggles of the church. It is down to us as Christians to own this fight. So I'm doing my bit according to my vocation, and you need to do your bit according to your vocation. And if you don't know what your vocation is, that is fine. Do your bit in as far as you understand it. Now, that's the reason why I haven't tried to set up any kind of organization. The most that I would seek to do is to set up and facilitate a network, a society. The idea is that the idea is to release an attitude, because that's really what we're talking about. I'm not talking about changing doctrines. I'm not talking about new Christian values. I'm not. Who as a Christian would ever want to invent something new? That's ridiculous. The apostles and the prophets gave it to us. All I'm trying to do is to convince Christians that the current way we're doing church is not sufficient to the problems that we are facing now, nor is it sufficient to the problems we're going to face in the future. And what we do need is a confident, muscular, willing to embrace conflict where it comes at us, willing to stand in solidarity where conflict exists for Christians, kind of Christianity. A kind of Christianity that the world will take seriously because it takes itself seriously. Now, obviously, if leaders of the church agree with this, and maybe some of you are leaders of the church, and you bring that into your fellowships, I will do what I can to help you cultivate that. And maybe, God willing, we'll see something emerge within the body of Christ. But I'm doing it from the position of a laity activist. I'm not doing it proclaiming myself, nor am I trying to establish any kind of cathedra for myself as a leader. So I hope that answers the question that was posed by a particularly disgruntled brother on Twitter last night. Okay. So guys, I don't know while I was rambling on, I don't know what you guys were talking about. So I'll just see if there's anything going on. Lottie, I don't know what the context are behind your comments, so I'll leave them. Let's have a look. I agree with you, Bob. I am worried about the division within our faith. I have seen it too much of it, and it really worries me. And I think, bro, that it comes from a really poor sense of discipleship. That that Christians, we tend to focus on the dogma. And it's almost like when two Christians come together, they talk to one another and until they can find something to disagree about. And they almost, in my experience, sometimes Christians, it's almost like they look for the thing that they can disagree about. And I think that being a Christian is not just about assenting intellectually to doctrines. It's about allowing the Christian faith to affect your sentiments, your attitudes, and your perceptions. And that means that we must have a softness and a love and a hospitality for other disciples of Christ. And I think that even that change itself would do so much good to help the church. And I do want to say that there is a lot of goodwill amongst Christians. It's not all bad. You know, I've met loads of Christians from different denominations willing to work together for the greater good of us all, even though they honestly disagree with one another about things. So, you know, let's keep it in perspective. But if everyone was a leader, we would only be more divided. Strong warriors like you should make up the majority. Exactly, Solomon. That is the point, is that so many Christians want to be leaders. Where's all the soldiers? Where's all the foot soldiers? Like, I've been seriously, like, even before YouTube, I've been involved in sort of the culture war as a Christian. So this is just a continuation of something that I've been doing for years and years and years, including evangelism. It's a continuation of the same steps, not uninterrupted, not perfectly, but it is essentially the same thing. We've got lots of Christians who want to enjoy the social networks and the social benefits of club Christianity. We've got lots of Christians who, you know, they want to do something good for God and they want the glory for it. You know, they want to be the leader. But the thing is, we need foot soldiers. That's what we need. We need foot soldiers in social media. We need foot soldiers on the streets. We need foot soldiers in politics. We need foot soldiers in economics. We need people who are willing to engage the culture around them. And my medium is social media, or at least one of my mediums is social media, and seek to influence and change the narrative that is dominating society. And, you know, at some point, there's going to be push and shove. And when the push comes, Christians need to be able to shove back. And this is the difference between club Christianity, civic religion, you know, and the sort of muscular Christianity that I'm talking about. One of the key differences is, in a muscular Christianity, you're not frightened by conflict. You're not afraid of it. You don't shrink from it. But that attitude, that mentality, doesn't mean that I then give myself license to be and to put myself up as a leader. I'm not claiming or desiring to be a leader. And traditionally within the church, the person that wants to make themselves leader is the last person that should be made leader. The person that is made leader is someone that is vaulted to the position of leadership against his own desire, but he's vaulted to leadership because he has lived in service to the body of Christ. So I don't want to be a leader. I wish to continue in my vocation. Now, this particular brother that had this railing against me and tried to dox me, he had said, you know, he had tried to put out this idea that, you know, he could get funding, or he could somehow, I don't know, establish the funding by which I could then go full time. And he was trying to use this as a way to get me to jump to his tune and to jump through his hoops. And I want to make it clear, I have to follow my vocation as I understand it, with prayer and reflection. I can't follow the money. Like, if it's not God's will for me to have the money to do this full time, then I just have to accept that. But I have to be true to the vocation that I have in prayer. I can't allow my decisions to be based upon chasing after this person or chasing after that person, or trying to do what this person wants or trying to do what that person wants because they give me this much money or that much money. The point is of following your vocation is that you follow your vocation. You know, it's the vocation that decides the actions you take. And it isn't based upon financial success. That's not a part of the decision-making process. It's just a bonus if that happens. So, you know, this brother, I'm guessing it's a brother. Like I say, I don't actually know that it's a brother. I think it's a brother. His tone and his words. is kind of gave off that impression. But he seemed to think that because he could do this for me and do that for me and help me in this way and that way, that suddenly I should prioritize him and ignore the like 400 other people that I'm corresponding with at the moment, and focus in on him and do the things that he wants me to do, like set up this organization. And because I was slow to reply to his private message after he'd tried to attack me on Twitter, because I was slow to respond to a private message, he then tries to dox me on Twitter and attack me, and he upset me last night. But which is why I'm talking about it, because I want to clarify it to anyone else who may be asking similar questions. Why doesn't Bob do this and why doesn't Bob do that? Why isn't he setting up a church? Why isn't he setting up an internet church? Because I'm not trying to be a leader. I'm trying to be a foot soldier. I'm trying to get you guys to be foot soldiers for the Christ. We gotta understand that our faith, the way that we do church, is that we've got to be a people of God right around the world. That's what we've got to get back into thinking. Now, I want to stress again, because I often talk about club Christianity. All of us probably belong to a club kind of Christianity fellowship. We stumbled into this by accident. I don't think it was ever planned. So we got to deal with the situation where we are with grace, not with frustration. And the way to get out of club Christianity is that your fellowship in your geographical area starts to open its doors and its hearts and its resources to the other fellowships in your local geographical area. And you guys of different fellowships in geographical areas start living life together as a people and as a brotherhood. And initially, you're just going to have to do that with the willing, because there'll always be someone that's a naysayer. Always, they're usually Republicans in politics or conservatives in politics. They're always the naysayers, but they've got no alternative. As Christians, we've got to have a vision of the future, and I'd really encourage you guys who want to read more into this to pick up the Benedict Option. It's a book; it's well worth reading. And you create that kind of people group in your local area, and then you start to live out culturally, socially, politically, economically, what it means to be Christians in a particular place. Whatever the challenges are in your area, maybe the challenges are in your area is that there's economic poverty. Like, how do you address that? Maybe the challenge in your area is that you live in an area dominated by Islamic radicals. How do you deal with that? Maybe you live in an area where it's all affluent and comfortable and there aren't any social economic changes. Then, how do you deepen your spirituality? How do you guys stand in solidarity with the Christians who are dealing with the fact that you've got drug dens on a corner and maybe prostitutes work in the street and like kids without parents, because they're coming from broken homes? How do you stand with the Christians who are dealing with Islamic radicals on the streets, bullying and harassing evangelists? Like, this is what it means to be a Christian. So yeah, there you go.